Webinar, What's New in SAP BusinessObjects 4.2 and Support Pack 3. I am Megan Souza, Marketing Manager here with Dunn Solutions Group. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items. This session will be recorded, and we will send out a link to the recording to everyone who registered within 24 to 48 hours after the presentation. We also have recordings of all previous webinars on our website in the event that you missed any in the past at dunsolutions.com. Also, if you have any questions during today's presentation, we encourage you to submit them, and we will address as many as we have time for at the end of the presentation. If the question is somewhat complex and we need more time to answer, we do promise to follow up with you for those. So let's take a look at today's agenda. I will begin by doing introductions to Dunn Solutions Group. From there, I will turn it over to today's presenter, Brandon Novi. Brandon is the project lead of analytics here at Dunn Solutions. Brandon will discuss the BI platform, Web Intelligence, and Crystal Reports, as well as the information design tool. After which, we will take any questions that you may have. So let's begin. Dunn Solutions has a long history of delivering innovative business technology solutions to companies. We are headquartered just outside of Chicago and have offices in Minneapolis, Raleigh, and Bangalore, India. Our offerings fall into two practice areas. Our application development solutions feature portals, e-commerce, and content-managed websites, mobile application development, and custom application development. Our analytics solutions feature analytics and BI platforms, as well as data warehouses and data integration. We are authorized SAP and Liferay training providers and offer classroom, virtual, private, and custom options. We believe training is important because once we deliver a solution, we want to make sure that those who need it know how to use it and maintain it. Our clients, some of which are included here, are a combination of Fortune 500, mid-market companies, government agencies, and nonprofits across all verticals. About 80% of our business are commercial clients and 20% are nonprofits and government. We maintain strong partnerships with top technology companies in order to offer our clients the most innovative solutions available today. Also, as today's, our application development practice develops solutions that are custom and help differentiate our customers from their competitors. We provide solutions on portals, e-commerce, and content-managed websites, custom transactional applications, as well as mobile applications for integration with back-end systems. We've been doing custom application development since our inception in 1988, and it's one of our core practice areas. Our analytics practice helps deliver information to decision makers throughout your organization so that it runs better. We can help with decision making by not only looking into the rearview mirror, but also looking forward into the future by leveraging predictive analytics and data mining techniques. Our analytics in the cloud services include developing forecasting models, integration with data warehouses, and data warehouse migrations to the cloud. We are an SAP Gold partner and have been a top-level partner for nearly 20 years. As an SAP authorized training partner, we help companies nationwide maximize their technology investments and offer public, private, virtual, and custom courses. Our public classrooms are located in Minneapolis and Raleigh. Please contact us for any SAP training needs your company may have. We offer a global delivery model that gives us flexibility to build teams that are best suited to our clients' timelines, budgets, and preferences. Projects that utilize offshore resources are always led by someone local and US-based. Thank you for allowing me to introduce you to Dunn Solutions. I will now hand over the presentation to Brandon. Welcome, Brandon.
Thank you very much, Megan. My name is Brandon Novi. I'm an accredited SAP trainer. I working for Dunn Solutions. So besides being also analytics lead, I also do a lot of training, working with several tools like the classic Web Intelligence and Crystal and some of the newer tools such as Design Studio and Lumira. I also do several installations of new business objects implementations, or I've upgraded things going back from Crystal 10 server up to the latest and greatest 4.2 Support Pack 3. So let's just jump right into talking about 4.2. Now this is not just about Support Pack 3. This is a combination of the features from 4.2 that were released a few months ago, as well as new features from Support Pack 3. There are a lot of new features in Support Pack 3 that I thought it would be best just to kind of bundle them all together in one presentation, just to show you if you're not weren't quite certain if you want to go to 4.2 yet. Hopefully when you see all the new features that also come with Support Pack 3, maybe that will help make that decision to upgrade to the 4.2 version of the software. The first thing I want to discuss is some of the back-end stuff, some of the stuff for administrators, working with Recycle Bin, which is a new feature in 4.2, as well as the BI Administrators Cockpit. There's also something called Phasewise Installation, which used to be called Split, now called Phasewise, where this is the concept that instead of making sure everyone's off your system and pressing the start button to begin your installation, you can start half your installation and then before people have to leave the system, and then you can finish up at a later time. And we'll also talk about changes to the Upgrade Manager tool. So the Recycle Bin, as I mentioned, is new with version 4.2. One nice feature about Support Pack 3 is it's on by default. So if you are, with the classic 4.2, you had to remember to turn it on, but now it's just running out of the gate if you have Support Pack 3. Also, if items are deleted, you can easily go as an administrator, just go right to the Recycle Bin in the Central Management Console and restore files. Another feature with Support Pack 3 is that you can restore more than just reports. As you can see here, I have universes, I have some Design Studio applications as well that are available for me to restore. So something that could have taken maybe minutes or hours trying to find the right tape, maybe from a week ago, a month ago, you can now just quickly go into the Central Management Console, find what was deleted accidentally, and come in here and restore the file. And let me show you how this works. So this is only for administrators. There's no public user Recycle Bin. So the administrators have to go into the Central Management Console. And first thing, just want to show you before I even go into the Recycle Bin, is the Applications area. If I go into my Applications in the Central Management Console, as mentioned with Support Pack 3, this is on by default, but just double check if you're not quite certain if you're on the original 4.2 or Support Pack 3, just make sure it's running. And then from this screen you can also go in and decide how many days you want to have items stay in the Recycle Bin before they're deleted automatically. So I could go in, maybe I'm happy with my 30 days, I'll press Save and Close. And then I'd like to show where the actual Recycle Bin lays. It's right here. And I can go in and grab different files and I can quickly restore them. So as a quick test, I could go to my Launchpad and maybe I've got some files I'm working with, and I can say, you know what, I don't need this anymore, I don't need this Lumira story. I could just go in and say delete, and then maybe I'm the end user and say, oh whoops, I didn't want to do that after all. Call my help desk, and I say no problem. The administrator can log in here. There it is, there's the file I just deleted. And I can quickly go in and I can restore it, or I can also right-click and look at the properties, which just shows me where it was located originally. It has some information about the deletion date versus creation date, and also who deleted it. But I can just go right-click on the document, press Restore, and I can just verify it. I can go back to the Launchpad, press the refresh button, and there's the file I just deleted. So the benefits of the Recycle Bin, instead of taking minutes or hours to restore items, the administrator can now just go in and within seconds have the files restored. All the deleted items are located in one screen, so you don't have to go hunting for things. And it's just a lifesaver and even a time saver for administrators. The next feature I'd like to discuss is the BI Administrators Cockpit. This is I'd say this is an add in addition to having the monitoring piece. So you still have your traditional monitoring where you go into the nitty-gritty, where this is more of an overview of what's going on with your system. So rather than having to jump right into monitoring, you as an administrator can go into the Central Management Console and go into the Administrators Cockpit and you can quickly look at what's going on with your environment. With SP3, Support Pack 3, I also have the ability, if I have multiple clusters, to look at an individual set of clusters or all of them at once. And I can even click into this. This is an interactive screen. I can quickly go look at all of my servers. If I want to quickly see what's failed, I can see that right here. But luckily, nothing has failed. I can also see what things are running and stop, all within one nice and simple interface. I can also look at my scheduled jobs. By default, it's just showing scheduled jobs from today. Or I can go back in time a little bit. I can look at the whole year, the last 30 days, etc. And I can see in the last 30 days I did have a failure. So on August 30th, I had a report that did fail. Also, with Support Pack 3, I now have the ability to also look at users and sessions. So I can quickly go in and just see who all my users are, or I can even differentiate between named and concurrent users. Now this is a demo environment, so I don't have a lot of people in here, but you can just kind of quickly see what's going on with my system. And I can even say statistics and see which users are active or which haven't logged in a while. Which could be useful. Maybe you want to remove users who don't use your system, or maybe you can find out if people need to be cleaned up. You can see who's active or inactive, who's not using your tool very much. We also have content usage. So let's say I do last 30 days. I can see what items are active or inactive. So if I go to inactive, I can see reports that just haven't really been used much in the past 30 days or so. And lastly, I can quickly look at my applications and just see which are the most commonly used applications. Web Intelligence in my demo environment is really popular, but I do also have some Design Studio, and followed by Lumira and some Crystals that are constantly used. So just the benefits again of the launch of the cockpit. It's just an add-on. It's not replacing any of this. It's not replacing the server screen or instance manager. It's just a new feature just to quickly go in and just see how your environment is running. Where you can quickly look at your servers, your scheduled jobs. If you go to Support Pack 3, it does include a fifth one for users and sessions, which I just showed you, as well as content usage and your application usage. The next piece I want to discuss, for those of you who have to do installations or upgrades, is the Phasewise Installation. For new installations, it's a little more tricky in that you have to use a command prompt. So before you run the setup.exe, you want to go into your command prompt and add some code at the end. So you just add cache and then a path and a file name for a response file. And then the software will get about halfway through the installation and stop, and then it will create a response file for you with a bunch of asterisks for the passwords. So you could go in and enter right in the response file a password for a cluster key, admin password, product key, etc. Once you've built that, then you can run the setup.exe again with a dash resume after cache to find and point to the response file. Now that is, again, if you're doing a new installation. If you're using Support Pack 3, they now also include options in the GUI, so you don't have to go to the command prompt, where you can work with you can select standard or phase-wise if you're doing an update. Now again, this is only for update installations of the tool, where now you can just do this right in the GUI, which is kind of pretty slick. So again, the benefits of the Phasewise installation, just less downtime during upgrades, because instead of having to, like as I mentioned, kind of kick everyone out of your server before you do the initial upgrade, you can do about half the upgrade with everyone still using the software, generate your response file, fill in the information, and then you need to schedule downtime to finish the rest of the upgrade. So it cuts your time by a lot. And another thing with the response file that I haven't mentioned yet, if you happen to have a multi-server environment, you can use the response file again and again with this would be for a clustered environment. You can use the information like your password again and again. Lastly, just want to mention some changes to the upgrade management tool. Now right in the GUI, you can set the log level. So you can set default, low, medium, or high, and it also will display the log path. In the past, you'd have to kind of go hunting through the SAP documents to find out where your log went, your log is located if you had any issues during the upgrade. But now you can quickly just see where your log is. And some new features I really love, they have some filters. So you can filter on time. So let's say you do an upgrade and it goes into Monday morning. You can see any reports that possibly changed Monday morning over the weekend and then migrate those reports a second time. You can also filter on object type. If you just want to filter, maybe move all of your webbies or crystals. And you can also hide objects that were already migrated. So don't try to migrate them again. It'll just hide those objects. So the benefits of the changes to the upgrade manager is that you can change your log level, like again the low, medium, and high. The GUI will show you where the log is. If you run into any problems, you can quickly see what reports may have failed to migrate. And you can also filter by modification date, type, and whether or not you want to show the object that were already successfully migrated from server 1 to server 2. So that finishes up a lot of features in the back end. Now I want to go into some of the reporting tools, like a lot of changes to web intelligence. And you may notice from my screen there are 3 big features that come with just Support Pack 3. So that's why I wanted to just show all the features when combining 4.2 and Support Pack 3, because there's just a lot of stuff. Web intelligence is given a lot of attention, a lot of love in version 4.2. A big thing is that a lot of features that for years were only available in Java are now available in HTML. And I'll go over some of those features. You can also, in both flavors of Webby, you can now connect directly to HANA without using a universe. Out of the box, Webby can use parallel queries. So if you have a document that runs 3 queries, before 4.2, they have to run them simultaneously, where now they can run in parallel. Another feature I absolutely love with Support Pack 3, cascading input controls. So if you were to go in and select Texas as a state with your input controls, it would automatically refresh the list of cities to only show you Texas cities. Another great feature of Support Pack 3, reference cells. If you have worked with Excel at all, you may have done something where you say, okay, I want to look at cell A4, and this is the equivalent of doing that. You just say, I want to always reference this one particular cell in Webby, and you can do that rather than writing a complex formula. And some features from 4.2, Geo Maps, where you can finally build a Geo Map without doing any tricks. There's also a commenting system where you can leave comments for your peers right in the Webby document, and it'll keep a list of all the comments, as well as shared elements. So shared elements are great. Let's say you spend several minutes, maybe an hour, building some just phenomenal looking chart, where before you have to go and copy paste the whole document. Now, if you build a phenomenal chart, you can save the chart outside of the document, and it can be imported into other documents. So let's get into the details of these features I just mentioned. These are the features that used to only be in Java that are now available in the HTML flavor of Web Intelligence as well. You can now build a Webby document against Excel or BEx using HTML. You can also build subqueries. You can also change your data source. So for example, if you start with a universe, you can switch from a universe from another universe to BEx or to the SAP Direct HANA connection. You can now create new conditional formatting rules, which before in HTML you could only look at them, but now with HTML you can also go and create new rules. And another big thing, you can make your own custom formats in HTML. The next thing I want to discuss are the Hana connections. And Hana works in both Java and HTML. And I also just want to show on my screen here the connections that are available now in both HTML and Java. There are 2 types of Hana connections. We have regular SAP HANA and SAP HANA Online. The SAP HANA will connect directly to a HANA analytic or calculation view. And then you would use the query panel like you would with a universe or an Excel file to select objects to add to your web intelligence data provider that would show up on your reports. SAP HANA Online is slightly different in that there's no query panel. Webby will go and send a query directly to HANA whenever a report developer drags an object onto the report. So let's say you have, maybe in your data provider, you see 20 objects. If you drag 5 onto your report, it'll go quickly run a query to HANA and come right back with the 5 columns worth of information. If you go and you add objects 6 and 7, it'll go right away, generate a query on the fly back to HANA to bring in object 6 and 7. Part of the reason it does that is just HANA is so powerful with this in-memory database that it's quick enough just to go rerun a query on the fly rather than storing all that information right in Webby. It just constantly goes back and forth to HANA. So the benefits of the Hana Connections, you no longer need a universe in the middle. You can go straight to HANA, and you can also just go and access Hana Views with or without your Web Intelligence query panel. The next feature, and I've got some demos for some of these upcoming slides, is working with parallel queries. So before version 4.2, parallel queries just ran in series. So something that if you had 3 queries in your document, it would have to take the whole time. It would take 23 seconds in this example. Well, now, out of the box, queries will run in parallel, and it'll take the length of your longest query. So in this example, query 3 took 11 seconds. Now, your end user will only see 11 seconds of time elapse in order to get their data back. There are only certain data providers that work with parallel queries. Both flavors of universes, UNV and UNX, SAP HANA, freehand SQL, and if you're using the rich client, you can also use text files. Another nice feature in Support Pack 3, where in the first version of 4.2, if you wanted to change the number of parallel queries allowed, the administrator would have to log into the Windows server directly and mess with some settings. But now with Support Pack 3, there are 2 places to change this. An administrator can just log right into the Central Management Console and change the number of parallel queries right inside the Webby processing server and then restart the server. Or if someone wants to get down a more finer level, at the universe level, a universe designer can determine how many queries they want to work with their universe, which by default is 4. So they can't overwrite the processing server, but they can say, well, I only want 4 ever working with my one universe. That could be something that the database administrator dictates to the universe person to set up. So let me show you an example of parallel queries working. So I have a scenario here where I have a parallel query. And I just want to show this to you in case any of you want to show this off to your peers, is that I have 3 queries, and both a little report that will demonstrate this functionality. If I press the refresh button, last time it took to run was 11 seconds. So I can show you this is working with a live connection. It may take a little more. Okay, it took me 13 seconds this time. But I can see the 13 comes from query 3. But I have this little piece of code here just showing me the execution times of my 3 queries. And even though overall it should have taken 26 seconds, it only took me 13 because that was the length of the 3rd query. For those of you who are administrators, I just want to show you if you want to see that setting, it's underneath servers. And under the Webby processing server, you can change the number of parallel queries, which out of the box are 64. And you can also decide if you want to allow the software to enable parallel queries or not during scheduling. So the benefits of the parallel queries: less runtime for your end user, and it's supported in several data providers. The next feature I want to show is cascading input controls, which, as I mentioned, with this in version 4.2, if you select an object, it will now filter the input controls down below. So let me show you an example of how it used to work. And you may be familiar with this if you've worked with web intelligence before. This is one of the biggest complaints I used to have, where I'd go in and an end user would start playing with the tool, they'd go and select California, and oh, it's still showing me all my cities down below. But you can now fix that. So the developer can go in, and with the input controls I can select this group button. And they can group the two input controls together, which it'll reset everything back to the default. But now I can go in, select only California, and my list of cities available down below are shown in Los Angeles and San Francisco. So there's no more of that seeing values that you shouldn't see. They're all linked together. Makes it just the tool just much more powerful being able to do that. So the benefits of the cascading input controls: a user will only see the values that pertain to the previous selections. So Chicago will only appear under Illinois. It will not show up if somebody selects Texas, as an example. Next feature I want to show is a reference cell. So this is just similar to saying I want to see the value in A4 in Excel. So with a reference cell, let me quickly show that. And for those of you who may notice I'm not using Java at all in my demos today. Let me go in and grab my reference cell demo. And I'm even going in and pressing modify using HTML here. So let's say maybe we decide, and my business decides, oh, this $8 million is special to us. We want to reference this. So if any of you have worked with web intelligence for a long time, you might kind of groan and say, okay, and you have to go create a very complex calculation context to figure out if it's always 2011, et cetera, et cetera. But now, with version 4.2 Support Pack 3, all I have to do is just grab this 8 million and say, assign reference. And maybe we'll call it total 2011, something that means something to you. And now, this cell is referenced. I can just drag it in as its own cell. Or I can also go, let me do that again. I can also use it in a variable. Maybe I'm going to compare it to my target of the total 2011. I'll subtract the sales revenue. And I can just drag this object over. I think I need to slap my own hand. I should have made this a measure. I think Webby is having a little bit some issues with me right now. But while it's loading, I can just show you in my slide an example. Again, you can just take your reference, in this scenario, New York 2011, subtract sales revenue, and you can use it in different variables. Let me just see if Webby caught up. No, unfortunately, it's a little issue there. Just to clarify the benefits of reference cells, you can refer to data from a cell in a table anywhere in a report. You have no need to use the calculation context functions, which if you've ever worked them, they can be a bit of work. Now you can just quickly just go in and use your reference cell and use it throughout your report. And I apologize, let me just do a quick little refresh. Let me just try a second browser here. Got one up and running, just in case. Okay, let me just quickly just run through that reference cell demo again, since the Webby is being a little happier now. And I'll go and I'll just do target. I'll change it to measure. And I'll do total minus sales revenue. Much better this time. Must have had a little glitch in my back end. But everything seems to be good now. I can see here's the target. So it's taking the target, subtracting the revenue, and I can see my value in this third column. And if I were to go in, maybe remove some data, like only show California, it still is referring to that footer cell. So obviously here there's no change, but I can see the change here. It's referring to that in the footer. The next thing I wanted to show is the commentary system, where users can add, edit, or delete comments in a document. So this is pretty slick in that I can go in as an end user, and I'll open up a document. And I can see, oh, there's a note from my boss. Oh, this report's kind of boring. Add some color. Now, rather than just jump in and add some color, I may respond to my boss. I'll click on the cell, and I'll say, sure. I might say greens and reds. And now the new comment says sure, greens and reds, and it's tracked here over on the left. I can also, if I want, copy out the documents, or copy out my comments, or let me log back in here as the administrator. And let me just start my browser over. There we go, much, much better. So the administrator can come in, let's say it's my boss, can come in and make a comment, and notice I'm in reading mode, I'm not in design mode. So the administrator can come in and say, and leave a comment back. Right with it without needing to have rights to design. Just back-end piece for the administrators. If your company learns about this comment system, they absolutely love it. You may want to consider having a separate comment database. By default, the BusinessObjects uses the audit database to keep comments, but you can go and set up a third one that only stores comments. And another feature in Support Pack 3, you can also delete comments after so many days, which here 3,650 days is a pretty long time, but it's also off by default, so you don't have to worry about the comments just randomly being deleted. Well, the benefits of the commentary system: you can leave comments in Webby documents for others to read. You can view the comment history both in design and read mode, and also make comments. And those comments are just cells, so if there's something critical, you can always go in and add color like a yellow or a red to really make a comment stand out more than the others. Geo Maps are also available now in Webby. They are very similar to the way they work in Lumira. So if you're comfortable with Lumira, you've got a head start on others with building Geo Maps in Web Intelligence. So I could go in, and I've got a document here with some state information. And by default, even though it says state and city, this will not automatically work with a geomap. I have to go in and edit my geomap as a geography, my state as a geography. And I can either do it by name or by latitude, longitude. Now I happen to just have data right here by name, so I'm just going to go edit by name. For state, I'll select region. And it got most of them. It didn't pick Florida correctly because I have two Floridas I can use, United States or Uruguay. US. And I can also go and edit my cities, which I happen to have a lot of. So let me just quickly jump in and just get these set up. You can see just how many Dallases and Houstons we have across the whole US, which you don't have to think about. So I have my states and cities set up. So now that I have that ready, I can go and add a map. And I can have three types of maps. So I have the geotoropleth, the geographic bubble, and also the Geo Pie Chart. So let me show you one using the geotoropleth. I just bring in my chart and drag over my data I want to see. And I quickly can see a chart. And by default, it does the color going from bad to good. So states that don't have as much revenue are dark red, or states with a lot of revenue are dark green. But if you don't like that, you can always go, just like with any chart, you can go in and format the palette. So maybe I don't want to have red to green, we want to have like light green to dark green. You can just quickly change your color scheme. You can also drill. So if I wanted to, I could go and drill down to city, for example, in California. It'll show me my two cities in California, which if you have a lot more cities, this is a lot more fun to look at. But just want to show you that drilling is available to go from state down to city, or also the other levels as well. So the benefits of the geomaps: you can now create maps directly in Webby. You can drill down to see different levels of geography. And you can also format your alert colors to specific needs. Last piece I want to show with Webby is the concept of shared elements. So you can share a part of your Webby document right in the Launchpad. So let's say, for example, you've gone in and you've been working on a report for a while. And maybe you've got a manager who's absolutely loves pie charts. So you go in and you say, okay, I'll turn this into a pie chart. And maybe you spend a little bit of time, you kind of have some fun with it. You go and you add some color, some style. You can make, add some 3D, make it kind of fun. And let's say boss says, oh, I absolutely love this. I want this in more reports. So what you can do is you can right-click on your object and you can link it, and we can just save it outside as a shared element. So I can just go and I'll call this one, I'll call it my sales pie chart. And it's now available in the Launchpad. So if I do a little refresh, there's my sales pie chart. And I can go into another document, maybe it's number 2 here. And I'll get rid of this file. And I can go over to my shared elements, and I'll go browse for shared element. Pardon me, 1 second. And I'll go grab my pie chart, and I can go and quickly add it. Now what's nice is, let me save this element 2 document. Maybe my boss says, hey, that's pretty cool. Hey, I learned about 3D pie charts. So I could go, and I've been asked to turn this into 3D. It looks pretty cool. I'm going to go and change this chart type. I'll do 3D. Let's pretend to spend a lot more time on it. I can go grab this item like I did before, save it out, and I'm going to overwrite the pie chart piece. Now that it's saved out there, I'm going to go open up element 2 again. And it won't change it right away, but I do see I do have a little notification on the left saying, hey, this pie chart has changed. And I can go in and update it, or I can say, you know what, I like the 2D, I don't want to mess with it. And then once I unlink it, it's no longer connected to the shared piece. But if I say update, it'll go, and now I have my updated version. But then I say, oh, you know what, this is actually perfect in 3D, and I don't want it to change ever again. I can select it and say unlink, and no matter what happens to the shared piece, it won't come into here. I'd have to manually browse and drag the shared piece back in to see it. So this is just mentioning what I showed you. So let's just get to the benefits of the shared elements. You can save your document, your components separately from the original Webby document. You can use it in other Webby documents. And also you can overwrite shared elements and have updates appear within multiple documents. So people can decide, say, hey, great, I want the change, or no, I don't want that change. It's not going to be good for what I'm trying to show. I'm quickly going to show you a little bit of Crystal. Not a lot has changed in the versions of Crystal, but I know I've had people ask me what's new in 2016 and 4.2. One thing with 2016, you can now vertically align cells, where before you could do left or right. Now you can also do top of a box, bottom, or middle of a box. And you can also apply conditional formatting to lines and columns. Or sorry, it should be lines and boxes. So in this example, I can go in, grab a cell, and I can either align it top, center, or bottom. So rather than, I used to do a little cheat where if I wanted something at the bottom of a cell, I'd mash the Enter key multiple times. Well, now you can just have it align at the bottom, and I can see this being very useful with centering if you want something centered right in the middle without having to do any tricks. Conditional formatting with lines also exists. So in this example, whenever my country is Austria, I'll show a dashed line, and you can see it changes here based on my formatting. This is again 2016, Crystal 2016. Some new features in Crystal for Enterprise 4.2. They also added the vertical alignment of cells. Some things that were available in 2006, the other version of Crystal that they have now in Enterprise, support for QR and barcodes, and they also now have included waterfall charts with the Enterprise version of Crystal. Just a quick, just couple-minute explanation of what's new in Crystal. Not a lot has been added to Crystal besides these, and also a couple of new data types, which nothing that special. Just for example, newer, like the updated versions of HANA and SQL Server are now supported. Like SQL 2014, I believe, is now supported. I want to get into the last piece here, the information design tool. A lot of stuff has been added to support Pack 3. As well as some things in 4.2. So I wanted to show you the new measure properties. I want to discuss BEx Universes and linked universes, which were available in the original 4.2. And then some new features in 4.2 SP3 are going directly to CMS data, so you can now query your own business. You can basically, they call it BI and BI. You can look at your own central management system. You can look at your own system behind the scenes and see what's going on. And you can also now work with something called sets, where you can bring in really complex filters into Webby, and your end users can just drag them in without having to create a bunch of ands and ors. Some of the new measure properties. There's an option to do high precision, which would allow your report viewers to look at numbers that have up to 40 decimal places. Don't turn this on unless you absolutely need it. It can chew up a little more memory, but it is useful that this exists now. There's also another projection available now called count without empty, which excludes empty values, which is similar to the classic universe design tool. You still do regular counts. You can switch between count, which does include empties, and count without empty. BEx universes are now supported, so you can now build a universe directly onto a BEx query. So why would I want to do this? One is you can actually use a universe instead. So it's web against a universe against a BEx. But it also allows the universe designer to go in and maybe rename some things, move things, or delete objects that aren't wanted in the universe that are in the query. So now, rather than having to make the changes at the query level, the universe is just another person who can go in and make those changes. You can also add universe security, as well as also pick which presentation layer from the query you want to show. Do you want to show the short text, the key, etc.? The benefits of the BEx universes: you can create universes again directly on BEx queries, and you can modify what objects are in the universe, as well as just choose which BW layer you want to present. Next thing, linked universes are back in version 4.2. So you can now create a universe based on a link to an existing universe. And different connections can be used, but they must contain the same objects. And this is an example of what it will look like. This would be my linked tables versus a new table. Now let me show a little demo of this, rather than show you some slides. I can go in and here I have an example. I just have a very, you'll never probably see a universe this simple in the real world. It's just a table. And let me actually just show you something here. I'm just going to go make a new data foundation called employees. And I'm just going to quickly just bring in just the employees table. And I'll go quickly make a business layer. What I can do is with linked universes, I can go in and in my business layer, I can say core business layers, and I can add a published universe. So you have to have, if you're linking to something, it has to be published. But I can go in and I'm going to grab from my motors universe. And voila, it is automatically brought in all the business layer folders from a different universe. And it even went in, and I won't see this right away, so I need to close down my data foundation and reopen it. it also brought in my tables, and it even tried to join them from my current universe and the linked universe, and actually did a pretty good job at join from employee to client ID, which I can go in and kind of clean it up a little bit and just see what was done. Just note that I can only make, since this is linked, I can only make changes to what's in this current universe. If I want to change anything like the showroom table or sale table, I'd have to go to the other universe, republish it to have those changes. Now, if you're used to the classic universe tool, you're in luck. They have a lot of the options like before in the old universe design tool. I can add a core. I can bring in another core. I can synchronize. So if I were to change the original motors universe, I could synchronize the changes. And I can also include it. So I can say, I want to just bring this in and never have it, I don't want it linked anymore. I just want to bring in all the motor stuff. And now it's part of this employees universe instead. And I can make changes right here. But then, since it's no longer linked, any change to the old motors will not be affected here. So the benefits of linked universes, you can now create universes based on others, and you can update the original universe, and it'll be shown in your linked universe as long as you leave them linked and you don't include them together. I'm coming up towards the end. Quickly just want to go through the CMS data source connection. You can now go and directly build a universe against your CMS data, but I want to say don't start building a universe. Instead, don't build one from scratch. Instead, go to SAP's support community network and download the samples. There is a universe already built with the data foundation and business layer. Go import those, and you can come to some sample reports. And you can quickly bring those in, look at your reports, and within minutes, you can have a nice working universe available with Webby. So I can go in, I have one called, it's imported as the BI platform CMS. And I can just go in, grab some items. You may want to look at all the Webbies. And let me just actually run this. Within seconds, I just have a report of all my Webbies without even having to know how to build a query. So some of you may have worked with this before, but until version 4.2, SP3, you had to go into the admin tool screen. First, you had to know where that was, which I remember I was having to go to Google and find that. And you also would have to either use a cheat sheet or have to memorize how to write these commands. Well, now, if you bring in that universe, you can just drag and drop items. And if you're not quite certain if it's Webby or Web Intelligence, it doesn't matter. You can just use the little drop-down menu, and you can get information about your environment. So the nice thing about the CMS connection, no need to memorize the query syntax, and you can also develop server status reports using familiar tools and not having to write out a bunch of statements and dump them into Excel. You can just quickly use Webby to look at your environment. We're coming up to the end, so let me try to get through this in the next 5-6 minutes. The last thing I want to discuss are sets, which are you can group list of values in IDT, and you can share them as complex filters in Webby. So here's an example. I have a bunch of sets, such as maybe I want to see clients on the West Coast, clients under 30, UK companies, etc. And when I'll create these, and this is what would be available in Webby. So a Webby person could go and just drag over US clients under 30 who don't live on the West Coast, which I know sounds very specific, but this could be useful maybe with a marketing campaign, or maybe you want to pick other locations. You can just, a Webby developer can just drag this filter in and see the results. There are two types of sets, static and temporal. Static just looks at your data based on you filter based on rules you create, and temporal can look at changes in data over calendar periods. I'm not going to read all these slides. They're kind of boring, but I wanted to share this with you just because to see all the process to create a set. So the big thing before you can even start working with sets, you must go into your business layer and add foreign and primary keys to your objects. So I went into the motors universe, and I had to go in here, and all my objects, such as most of them, like country name, I had to go into my keys tab and add a key to work with country ID, my region ID. I had to go in and add all these keys. If you don't do this, you can't even start working with sets. So this is the big piece, is you make sure you have your keys. And then once you've added your keys, you publish your universe. And once it's been published, you can right-click on your universe to manage your sets. So I'd have to go over here, find my universe, and I'd say Manage Set Containers. Now this one's already been done, so I happen to have all of my objects all ready to go. But if anything changed, I could resynchronize them. I can also add a calendar. A calendar, you only need a calendar if you're using temporal sets. I'd make it called a marketing target. I just want to show you you can set up, do you want to do yearly, monthly, weekly? Let's say I want to do quarterly. I can set up to be 4 periods, and it'll pick from today up to a year in the future, doing every, next quarter, and it'll slice it up in different sets. I can do also monthly. If you do 12, it will go the full year from now. I'm just going to quickly breeze through this just to make sure I can show you everything. And then you go and deploy your set. And once it's deployed, it would show up here. And I've already brought this down. I brought down motor sets. You have to retrieve it like you would a universe. But once it's retrieved, I can go in and add more sets, or I can build them. I can just show you, here's an example of one called Clients on the West Coast. So literally I just went in and I just built a little job to just show me West Coast clients. One thing that's also slick is you can combine sets together. Here's a very complex one I built. This is using 3 pre-existing sets that I built. So I have clients on the West Coast, clients under 30, and clients in the US. But I can actually pick which part of my diagram I want to use. So it's not automatically going to be all 3. I can say, when I publish this to make available for Webby, I just want to see this little intersection between collection 2 and 3. So this will show me clients under 30, clients in the US, but it will exclude any clients from the West Coast. So it's just a pretty slick, interactive way to build what would normally be a really cumbersome and/or statement. And then once I'm finished, I'll build it. Now, it gave me an error because I think it already exists. I just want to show you the steps you would do. And then it's available in my universe. So I get to say clients, US clients under 30 not in the West Coast. I bring in region, maybe some client names. And I quickly see I have locations in the east, the south, in my information. Again, this is just making it easier for your report writers so they don't have to do a bunch of crazy and/or logic. Another thing is sets are separated from your universe. So they're published into the CMC separately, and they'd be scheduled separately, which would be useful with like a temporal set, something that changes over time. And it is exactly 12 o'clock Central, so I've given you an hour. Thank you for an hour of your time. I apologize for rushing here at the end. Again, my name is Brandon Novi. I'm a lead, and if anyone has time for questions, otherwise I'll hand it back to you, Megan, to handle the Q&A.
All right, we do have several questions. I'm going to go through one or two, and then for the rest we'll be able to follow up with you guys with a document when I send out the recording invite. The first question is, can I extract my instance manager output in Excel?
Oh, the instance manager. Do you mean, I know, would this be in the universe? Because I know you could dump out, not from the instance manager itself, but you could build a query using that universe on a universe. So you could go in here, in theory, I don't have something memorized, where you could go in, you could go find your schedule, maybe with Webby reports or Crystal reports, you could dump that out to Excel, but not right within the, from the instance manager interface.
Okay. Does the shared element work with BEx source?
I have not tried it with BEx source. I believe it should, but I've not personally tried it myself.
Okay. And the last question that we'll cover before we go today, what is the max character length for a shared comment?
I'd have to get back to you on that one. I don't know the max length for a shared comment.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and thank you, Brandon, for your presentation. For any of the other questions that we weren't able to get to, I'll make sure that we follow up with you guys for those, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm.